mind frame? I hope so. You don't look straight though. Is it like this? I think that might be better. I'm soon to be querying.
This would be such a good clip for my intro.
Wild. How the time flies. Hey guys, and welcome to this interesting video that I'm calling like a little facet of Project Fae. Today I am explaining to you the calendar system and how time works in Project Fae because I think it's a little interesting. It might not be unique, but I think it's really cool. And yeah, just like using time to explain some of the lore and world building of Project Fae. I figured this would be like an interesting lens to view my project from, so let's get into it. But first, I'm really hot in this sweatshirt, so I need to take it off. That's better. So yeah, we're gonna talk all about time. I'm so jazzed about this because I talked about this very thing on my most recent live stream that I did, and I thought it was super interesting. So like now I'm gonna get into it all over again and get to explain it a second time. And I just think it's really cool what me and my partner have been doing with Project Fae in terms of time. So let's get into it. I'm gonna explain a little bit about what Project Fae is. It is a YA fantasy project that has a bit of a burgeoning cultural renaissance happening. You know, a lot is going on, a lot of shifting things in society, lots of different ideas around like science and art and innovation and stuff like that. Things are happening, and so this renaissance happened 40 years ago from day one of Project Fae. So 40 years ago, this thing that we are calling the Epic of Plenty. This Epic of Plenty brought with it a time of renaissance, rebirth for this kingdom. And so Myra, which is our main character, her job is to insert herself into this culture because like that's just what every like teenager does, is they try to find their place in this world. And so Myra is trying to be what her father was, which is a potter, but she's not that good at it. Her father was renowned for his craft back in the day, but they have moved to the countryside since. But the thing is, Myra's actually not very interested in pottery. She's most drawn to history, which is unfortunate because this kingdom does not want her to go digging in its history. So anyway, present day, 40 years ago, the Epic of Plenty happens. Myra is investigating that time period and earlier. Now, let's start with big time units down to small, because that makes sense to me. In terms of big time, I don't know what year it is, but considering all of the inventions that we have put into this book, it's a combination of like Renaissance things and Enlightenment ideas. It's just like a mishmash of that time period from 1450 to 1750, I want to say. It's just like, and anything goes, because the society for the first time 40 years ago has not had to deal with feeding people or healing people. Food and healthcare are covered since 40 years ago. The people have this rapid pace of innovation. Society is just like picking up, things are being created all the time, and now this culture is focusing itself on arts and innovation instead of food and disease, which is what has normally killed off people in the past, I guess also today, but historically those things have been what has kept society from progressing and delving into like arts and sciences. So we remove those factors, now we're in artsy sciencey land. And so we have not put a year to when it is in Project Fae. At some point I'm probably gonna have to name the year, like it's year 1340, but like I have not done that yet. Now let's go a little deeper. In 1 year in Project Fae, we have 13 months. Now this is not an original concept. This 13th month idea I know has been done in other fantasy projects, and it's been floated just generally in pop culture, like why isn't our calendar 13 months with 28 days each? Because that's what it is in Project Fae. So we got 4 weeks in a month, 7 days each. That makes something like 360 something days. Let's talk about these 13 months and my naming conventions. So far, and I probably do need to give them actual names, I have named them by their numbers. So August is 8th, September is 9th. I'm currently writing chapter 14 in Project Fae, and it is in the middle of 9th, roughly September, end of August, because that's how the math works on that. 13 months, so we do have a month called 13th. I probably do need to give them names, but like I kind of like just naming them by numbers for now. I think it kind of adds to the culture because weekdays are called 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, 6 day, and 7 day. So we got that going on. Hours, I'm keeping those like, 1, 2, 3, 4, like it's all number based so far. So I feel like it's keeping with the conventions of this society. And I'm still using the words week and weekend, although I'm not really like partial to it. I'd rather change it, but I don't know what I would change it to. And so yeah, now let's go into my favorite part of this discussion, which is holidays. This society has reordered itself around maker culture, arts and sciences, people making things, people showing things, people selling things, celebrating what they have made and accomplished. There are quite a few holidays going on in Project Fae. Let's start with the artsy side of the branch of makers. So we have an umbrella of people who make things. They're called makers. We have basically two factions that were unintentional at the beginning of the Epic of Plenty, but they have self-divided themselves. So we have artsy artist people like painters, potters, sculptors, writers, jewelry makers, and florists, and botanists, and watercolorists. we have lots of different artsy people. Yeah, and then we have the inventory society. And then we have the inventory side of society. These are your blacksmiths and printers and scientists and chemists, and we also have musicians over here. But I haven't fleshed out this side as much as the artsy side yet because Myra is in the artsy side, but I will get to this side later. Let's talk about the artsy side. So Myra, her first holiday that she experiences is called Offering Day. Now this happens once a month, and it is particular not to the artsy side, but actually the entire maker community, and it is a monthly festival in which people bring what they have made over the course of the month, and they donate it in an offering fire. Now, when these things go into the fire, they disappear. We don't know where they go. I mean, I do, but so they disappear into the fire, and then the king of this land, whose name I'm going to keep secret, the king arrives and he orates everything that has been donated that day almost at an auctioneer's pace, and it takes him like a full 13 hours. He gets through it, and people just love it. The crowd goes wild. Yeah, he's like the super awesome king, and he's the one who started the Epic of Plenty 40 years ago. So he's still kicking, still around, doing his great thing for the kingdom. I want you to question that. We have Offering Day. Next, let's talk about Viewing Day, because it sounds similar. So on the artsy side of society, we have viewing days every second, what would be a Saturday, but it's called 6th day. Viewing days are basically like little garden parties in which the makers of a certain household or patronage or sponsor basically present their things in the garden, in the courtyard, maybe inside the house if it's raining. The community comes and looks around, sees them, maybe buys something. There's food, there's games. It's just a grand old time. Now something really fortunate happens to Myra the first time she presents at one of these, so she doesn't want to go to the next one. Which is fine, Myra. I get it. She must be a historian anyway. moving on. The final repeated holiday I want to talk about is called the Forum, and this belongs to the inventor side of society. The Forum happens 4 times a year and we're not certain on this yet, but it's between 3 and 5 days. So yeah, the Forum is basically like a convention, like a con for all the inventors. And so there is like networking events and, people just buying each other beer and stalls, advice, pamphlets, mentorship opportunities. Like it's like a real, like actually going to a, what are they called? Like a panel, like a, what's the event called? Like you go for like work reasons or whatever. Conference. It's like a conference. Anyway, so like we got that going on, but it's like it's huge in like the far outside, like almost at the outskirts of the city. Like it takes over like an entire section, I think on the west side. Yeah, it's a real like great networking event, and Myra has a friend who is trying to like make it as a clockmaker, and so she tries to sell her things there. And she also has a friend who is actually also the love interest but isn't right now, who is a printer, a book printer, like a person who does printing press stuff, and his patron are also at this forum. So this happens 4 times a year, and right now it's currently 9th month, so it's happening in 9th. And the last festival I want to talk about happens at the very end of the year. This is in the dead space basically that isn't assigned to either 13th month or first. I'm not sure what I'm going to call the first month yet. I'll cross that road when I get to it. The Winter Festival, the name might change, but the Winter Festival happens like basically at the winter solstice, like in between these two years. It's like a huge event. It's like the most celebratory one, like an even bigger version of a viewing day, of an offering, and the forum, like all bundled into one. It's basically like a competition between like all the makers, inventors, and artists alike, and the goal of it is to win the king's boon. So like get this like a special prize from the king, and it's basically whatever you want. People also buy things at this festival, and it's really, I don't know how it is because I haven't written it yet, but it's going to play a big part in this book. It's specifically, I'm going to place it at the midpoint, and Myra is not going to have a good time. She needs to do better with her pottery, or else basically she's going to get kicked out. That's all the time things I want to talk about with Project Fae. We talked about years and also what happened in the past, months and their naming conventions, days of the week, festivals, and leap years. Oh, I forgot to mention, every 4 years that Winter Festival becomes 2 days, and it's an even bigger deal. It's a huge deal. Yeah, to account for that extra like leap year nonsense that we are blessed with. That's all I want to talk about with Project Fae in this cool little facet video. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know, anyone, if you are writing a fantasy project, what are some ways that you delineate time differently from how we do in the real world? I know renaming months is very common, but I also feel like you can't go too far outside of convention or else you just confuse people. Like, I don't know about renaming winter. That might be hard. Or renaming 1 p.m. Yeah, just things to think about. That's all about Project Fae in terms of time. Like this video if you want to see more interesting facets about Project Fae or my other projects. And subscribe to follow Project Fae's journey on my channel. I'm so excited. I just love this project. It's pure escapism for me right now. Like, I love switching to a fantasy project after writing contemporary for the last 2.5 years. Like, I find it really energizing, and I really love it, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. I'm also planning on doing a video in which I share some snippets of my projects, so be on the lookout for that. It might be the next video in this playlist or one following. We'll see if I have the energy to make a vlog before that one. But yeah, that's what you can look forward to. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!